Everyone knows that GTA Online is a fun game about making lots of shiny video game money, so then you can reinvest that money to buy more businesses and make even more money. However, if you want to be a billionaire in this game, the key is working smarter, not harder, which is why in today's video, I will demonstrate that fact by ranking every single business in the game to show you which ones are worth your time and which ones belong in the trash can. I've already done a similar ranking list in the past for all 25 businesses in the game, but now we finally have mansions, which technically aren't a business alone by themselves, but they come with a game-changing feature that is the new and honestly busted production boost, which essentially puts all your businesses on a steroids program. So I'm going to redo my rankings to see how this affects your money grind as we move forward into 2026 here, starting at the bottom with garbage tier and going all the way up to god tier. I'll also tell you which businesses benefit the most from the new mansion speed boost and show you how to stack multiple buffs on top of each other to make insane amounts of cash in no time. And once again, starting things off at the bottom of our list, we've got the undisputed defending champion of trash, the Document Forgery Office, which reclaims its title as the worst business in the entire game at the absolute bottom of garbage tier. Has the payout improved slightly with the addition of the mansion production speed boost? Sure, if you want to waste a limited resource on the worst moneymaker in the game, which nobody in their right mind should do, by the way. You see, the production boost isn't a magic wand that you can wave to make an awful business good. If you put trash in, you get trash out, and that's unfortunately not changed with the Document Forgery, which before this DLC was stuck at a measly $20,000 per hour, and now you can make $20,000 in 20 minutes with the boost. Or you could just skip all that and call up Franklin and do yourself a payphone hit to make the same amount of money in a third of the time. Plus, it's not like the Document Forgery Office is positioned well on the map either. The locations for this thing are absolutely criminal. I mean, look at this. Elysian Island, Grapeseed, there's even one all the way up in Paleto Bay. If you don't have something like an oppressor or a sparrow, this is straight up torture, just traveling between these locations. The only decent place is in Textile City, but even then, it's easily the worst MC business in the game without a doubt. You can literally make more money by doing VIP work or even by stealing cars for Simeon, and those are far more engaging than falling asleep at the wheel of a garbage truck as you try to sell your forged documents for minimal cash. Number 2 on my list is going to be the Arena Workshop, and while the Money Fronts update doubled the number of arena points you get, it's still far from ideal, as we need a complete overhaul of the payout structure and content variety to make this aging business relevant once again. As of now, the only reason you'd even own this business is if you like how the Arena War vehicles look, and I'll admit, some of them are pretty slick, like that ZR350, the Cerberus, and the Apocalypse Dominator, but unless you're building some sort of Mad Max garage, this business isn't really worth owning in my opinion. Plus, nobody even plays the actual Arena War these days, so half the time you'll just be sitting in empty lobbies waiting for just one new player to show up. Next, one tier up from the garbage tier is bad tier, and these businesses are going to be slightly better than the last two in terms of payout and quality of content, but I'd still advise against them if you're a serious grinder because they're just not worth the time investment. Like for example, the high-end apartments, which gives you access to the 5 OG heists. Yes, these did get a payout buff in 2022, but they still aren't worth your time because the mission structure is outdated at this point, and to make matters worse, you need 4 people to play most of them, which if you've got randoms from a public lobby is absolute hell on earth. And let's say you're just trying to experiment with new types of content. Even then, you don't have to actually own the apartment unless you're the one hosting. You can just get invited to the party by someone else. Therefore, high-end apartments are a waste of money for most players, and I'm relegating these to the bad tier of businesses. The next entry in the bad tier is the facility. Now, if you're a rich guy in GTA Online with a few $1 million to spare and a tank to store, you might be interested in purchasing a facility. It also unlocks the orbital cannon, which is the most expensive way of extending a giant middle finger to someone you really hate. However, this business itself doesn't really offer anything exciting from a money-making perspective outside of the Bogdan glitch, which is why I put it in the bad tier. But if you really enjoy the Doomsday Heist, you might rank it higher. I personally love playing through the Doomsday Heist, but it still isn't really worth it to me to grind money efficiently because it just takes way too long. But if you've got people in your friend group who like a challenge, it might be the perfect heist for you because of the added complexity and high stakes gameplay. Alright, now that we've dealt with the garbage and bad tiers, let's talk about the next tier. This one includes businesses that aren't terrible, but they aren't exactly good either, which makes them mid-tier. First up, we've got the Bail Office, which was introduced in June 2024 with the bottom dollar bounties update, and I know it wasn't received super well at the time, but honestly, I'm kind of a fan of it because I just log in, I do a quick most wanted bounty target for about $125,000 on average, grab the money from my safe that my agents collected for me, and then dispatch my bail agents once again, and just go on with the rest of my grind, and I return to it the next day. However, the Bail Office payouts, if you're grinding, are not that impressive at all, especially when you consider how expensive this thing is compared to other businesses like the salvage yard and auto shop. And with the meager payouts, it will take you forever just to recover your initial investment. And remember, each agent costs $750,000 and they only bring in about $10,000 to $12,000 every 48 minutes. With the recent update, if you have GTA Plus, you can actually use the Vinewood app to dispatch your bail agents remotely, which is a really neat quality of life feature, but for most of you, unless Rockstar buffs the base payout on bounties and reduces the cooldown significantly, the bail office isn't going to be super worthwhile from a money-making perspective for most players. Plus, its missions can feel very repetitive after a while, especially because you're stuck with that awful piece of crap bail office van. By the way, Rockstar, if you're listening, we have perfectly good police cars worth millions of dollars just sitting in our garage, so let us use them for the bail office missions. And now it's time for some weed. Farming, I mean. The weed farm got a huge buff with the Money Fronts update because if you own the Smoke on the Water business, it automatically boosts the value of all sales by 35%, and that's a big deal for a business that was pretty mediocre otherwise. But now with the Mansions DLC, grass is even better for you to purchase because its production time has been cut down to a third, from 5.32 hours for a full bar of product down to just 1.8 hours. But you still have to deal with the fact that this is an MC business, which means you'll have to fly dodos and drive garbage trucks halfway around the map for 20 minutes straight to make your money, and for that reason, I still can't put the grass farm in anything above mid-tier. Okay, now we're finally in the good tier, and the first entry in this tier is going to be the Counterfeit Cash Factory, which also received a 35% buff with Money Fronts earlier this year, and if you own the car wash, you can now make $496,000 with a full bar of product. That's almost as much as the Coca-Cola lockup, the previous reigning champ of MC businesses, and I'm willing to put Counterfeit Cash at the bottom of the good tier because if nothing else, it at least has the money factor going for it. It's now the second highest paying MC business after Coca-Cola, and if you also activate the Mansion Speed Boost, you can have a full stock of cash in just 1.8 hours. Once again, the main Achilles heel of this business, like with any other MC business, is the boring multi-vehicle sell missions. If not for that, I'd actually rank this a lot higher. And yes, they did remove post-op vans, but that's like trying to fix a runaway nuclear reactor with duct tape. There's just too much wrong with it by design, and we need a total overhaul of MC sell missions for these businesses to be a part of everyone's daily grind. Still, I am willing to put cash at the bottom of good tier just for the money and the fact that it's one of the 3 MC businesses worth linking to your nightclub warehouse. Next up in the good tier, we've got the Walter White Lab, which has been upgraded from mid-tier thanks to the new Mansions DLC. It used to be the slowest of all MC businesses at producing product, taking 6 hours for a full bar of stock, but now with the production speed boost applied from your mansion, you can have a full bar of stock in just 2 hours. And then you could do it again and again for a full 24 hours straight until the boost expires. So on an event week, for example, if you have an ample supply of Red Bull and maybe some of the stuff you're selling, you might be able to make millions of dollars a day at the cost of your own sanity. Our third good tier business is going to be the White Powder Lockup, and just like Cash and Math, this too has received an upgrade compared to my last ranking video. It is easily the best MC business in the game from a pure money versus time perspective, and despite all the drawbacks of MC businesses, I'm willing to give it a pass just this once thanks to the new Mansion boost, which makes waiting for the bar to fill up just a little less tedious than before. And let's not forget the fact that if you have Mansion security, you're now 100% raid proof, even if you're roaming the streets as an MC president with a full bar of stock just sitting there in your Coca-Cola lockup. All that is just enough to bring the lockup into the good tier along with the Math Lab and Cash Factory. However, as much as those 3 businesses have improved after the Mansions DLC, they're still going to sit at the bottom of good tier. The quality of life upgrades are just barely enough for them to sneak their way in there, but if you want something that's actually exciting, I recommend the Vehicle Warehouse, which originally ranked lower on one of my old videos, but I've since changed my mind on this one because it can be a really good money earner if you know exactly how to source top range vehicles. These are worth $100,000 each, and the trick here is to source 10 standard range vehicles first and then 10 mid-range vehicles. This guarantees GT's top range cars only spawn from that point onwards, but I like to take it a step further by also sourcing all 12 top range cars, so I have more control over exactly which vehicle I sell and which source mission I get. I should also point out to you that you can boost your grind by using the Iron Mule to airlift cars in source missions, and then you can get up to 50% extra cash per car by selling in public lobbies for that high demand bonus. Top end cars are fast and will get to the destination in 3 to 4 minutes, plus you also have Ghost Org to mask your activity and protect you from griefers. Next, we've got the Mackenzie Field Hangar, which retains its spot in the good tier, and I'm not going to ask you to do the gun running missions as those are pretty mediocre, but the main reason anyone gets this hangar is so that they can play the Oscar Guzman Flies Again heist, which pays $500,000 on normal difficulty and $750,000 on hard mode for approximately 50 minutes to an hour of gameplay. I also think the missions themselves are quite interesting, and if you watch my Oscar Guzman speedrun guide, I've got some nice tips and tricks in there to significantly help cut down your completion time on it, because I know a lot of people struggle to get this heist done in under an hour, and therefore they think it's way too tedious for the amount of money it offers. But in reality, Oscar Guzman is more lucrative than Cluckenbell if you know what you're doing, and definitely worthy of being included in the good tier. And now the bunker, which is getting a ranking upgrade, and while it's still in the good tier, it's now very good rather than just good. That's because the production time for a full bunker of product has gone down from 11 hours and 40 minutes previously to just 3 hours and 50 minutes with the Mansion Speed Boost. That's right, 3 hours and 50 minutes for over $1 million worth of product, and if you abuse the Sparrow, you can easily do a 3 vehicle Insurgent Cell mission or the 2 Phantom Truck Cell mission in less than 20 minutes. Even without the speed boost, you're making $110,000 per hour in a private lobby if you do just 1 resupply and sell a single vehicle for $210,000, and then combine that with the ammunition contract deliveries. But with the Mansion Speed Boost, you can get insane amounts of money because now a single bunker resupply turns into product in just 46 minutes. 46 minutes for $210,000, generating completely passively in the background. Next, we've got the arcade, which also sits comfortably in the good tier, and the main reason for that is the Diamond Casino heist, which is considered by some to be the absolute best in the game, alongside Cayo Perico because of how much cash it pays out. Sure, some of the prep work can be annoying as a solo player, but if you've got a duo, it barely takes longer than the Cayo preps, and with the Big Con approach using the group sex disguise, I think the casino finale is actually easier than the Cayo finale, as you literally walk into the vault, grab the loot, and just walk out with your money. The next entry in the good tier isn't particularly exciting on its own, but it's essential because if you're interested in any of the MC businesses, you need to first own the MC Clubhouse. So it automatically jumps to good tier just because of that. It also opens up other activities like the bike deliveries, which pay $50,000 every 48 minutes. And you'll also find a selection of biker missions that take around 5 to 10 minutes to complete with a payout of about $30,000 each. So not only is it the foundation upon which all of the other MC businesses are built, but it can also act as a decent source of income on its own as well. And if you really want to cosplay as a crime lord, you definitely need a CEO office, which can be yours for the bargain price of just $1 million if you go with the Maze Bank West option. I'm actually going to put this in the good tier, and I know some of you have questions at this point, so let me explain. Just like the Motorcycle Clubhouse, the CEO office isn't all that great by itself. Sure, you can do the mixed goods export missions, which pay $50,000 on a 48-minute cooldown, but the real reason anyone buys the CEO office is so that they can gain access to the special cargo storage warehouse as well as the vehicle warehouse, and those two are massive cash generators, and they easily make a CEO office worth the investment. And speaking of warehouses, let's see how the special cargo warehouse stacks up against other businesses. While it hasn't received any major buffs recently, unlike its cousin the Hangar, the special cargo warehouse is still one of the best ways of making money in GTA Online. And yes, the grind can get a bit monotonous as all you're doing is collecting crates and fighting the same NPCs over and over and over, but you could also just use the technicians in the warehouses to passively source your crates and wait until special cargo goes on double money to sell. That's what I do. Either way works, but with the technicians, I'm constantly selling warehouses. And guess what? With the brand new fast travel feature in your mansion, you can actually travel to each individual warehouse, whereas previously you had to fly there on your Oppressor or Sparrow and assign technicians manually. But now all it takes is one button press and you're right there inside the warehouse. And if you have GTA Plus, you don't even need to do that because the upgraded Vinewood app now lets you assign your warehouse staff to source goods right from the menu itself. So you don't even have to fast travel there like the rest of us plebs. Pretty sweet, right? And even if you pay technicians to source goods for you, you're still making $1.6 million in pure profit with each large warehouse because unlike the Hangar, you're not penalized for randomly sourcing different kinds of goods. And speaking of the Hangar, it's also retaining its spot in the good tier, same as last time. Remember, if you own the Higgins Helitours business, all hangar income is boosted by 10%. And as always, medical supplies, chemicals, and narcotics pay the most, but even if you're only sourcing counterfeit goods, you can still make $2.4 million with 50 crates, which is insanely good for next to no work. And remember, this is in an invite-only lobby without any high-demand bonus. If you're in a full lobby, that 50% bonus kicks in, and you're able to make $3.6 million on a 50 crate sell for counterfeit goods, and over $4.1 million if you sell the high-value stuff like chemicals or medical supplies. Then we've got the auto shop, which also makes it into the good tier because you can earn over $400,000 an hour with contracts. Let me explain. First, you get to choose from a roster of 8 contracts. Most of these pay anywhere from $170,000 to $185,000 per contract and take around 20 to 30 minutes to complete. But there is one meta contract called the Union Depository contract, which pays a whopping $300,000, even though it doesn't take any more time than the normal contracts. You can't redo the same contract a second time in a row because there's a cooldown, but you can easily make $600,000 an hour by doing the Union Depository combined with 2 normal contracts like the ECU job or Super Dollar Deal. And that's not all, because the auto shop also unlocks every single non-specialized vehicle upgrade in the game, irrespective of your level, and you also get a 5% discount on parts since you're the shop owner. So if you love tinkering around with vehicles and upgrading them, the auto shop is easily one of the best purchases that you can make. And then for the final business in the good tier, we've got the salvage yard, which has 3 different ways of making money. You've got the office safe, which collects money from salvaged vehicles, and it also generates additional passive income like the nightclub based on how many cars you've recently salvaged. Then we've got the salvage yard car robberies, which are essentially mini heists, and you get 3 of these on a weekly cooldown, and combined, they pay around $1 million. Plus, you occasionally get to keep a stolen car for yourself. However, the biggest moneymaker in the salvage yard is ironically the humble tow truck, which a lot of folks sleep on because the job itself is quite boring, and at first, $30,000 to $40,000 per car doesn't seem like a whole lot until you realize that adds up to over 100 grand per hour if you also include the $24,000 from your salvage yard wall safe. And because you can only do 3 heists per week, the office safe is numerically superior at making money. Plus, your salvage yard staff keep working even when you log off the game. So you can do a couple of tow truck jobs at the start of your session, and then right before logging off, you can do 2 more. Then the next time you log in, that extra money will have been added to your safe. Alright, now we finally arrived at the God tier. This is the cream of the crop, and I'm actually going to kick things off with the brand new mansions, which I think deserve a spot in the God tier for sure. Not because they unlock some brand new activity or heist, which they don't, but because you get an insanely busted production speed boost that applies globally to any business for an entire day. And then the next day, once that clock resets, you can use the same production speed boost on a different business, so it effectively has 0 cooldown. 0. Okay, yes, you can't boost the same business 2 days in a row, but that's not an issue because if you're a serious grinder, you can do multiple full bunker or multiple full MC cell missions in one day. And you know why? Because this new production boost increases your business speed by 200%. Yes, you heard that right. Your businesses are now 200% faster, which means they'll produce stock at 3 times the speed. So anything that used to take 3 hours, for example, will now fill up in just 1 hour. And get this, the new production boost feature comes pre-packaged with every base mansion purchase for absolutely free, along with the most powerful fast travel in the game that will take you directly inside a warehouse or service vehicle, something that you can't even do from the actual pause menu. And you also get a free master control terminal with every mansion. Forget the luxurious interiors and scenic view of the city. This is the main reason to get a mansion, folks. The insanely busted production speed boost. And what's even more busted than a production speed boost? Well, 2 production speed boosts, which you can get by combining the Acid Labs built-in speed boost with the one in your mansion, and this allows you to generate a full $351,000 worth of acid in under an hour. Then, because you only get 1 cell vehicle, you can grab that money and do a second acid cell just a couple of hours later. And if you want to be really efficient, you can even match your acid lab timing with the bunker, which takes roughly 2 hours and 20 minutes to process a single resupply. For this reason, the acid lab climbs up a rank in the God tier compared to last time. It used to be great, now it's even greater. The nightclub also retains its spot in the God tier because it's so easy to operate and makes loads of passive money. However, there's a big disclaimer here. On its own, without any warehouse earnings, the nightclub isn't that impressive. But once you have other businesses like the Crystal Lab, the Bunker, or Special Cargo Warehouse, for example, you can go into your nightclub and assign technicians to each of these businesses who will source materials for you. This is different from resupplying because you don't actually have to do anything other than assign the 5 technicians to the best businesses that you own. Combining this with the office safe, which makes $50,000 on its own if you have max popularity, the nightclub is capable of generating $100,000 per hour. And the best part is that this is completely passive income, so you can be doing other stuff and your nightclub will keep generating cash for you in the background. Sell missions are also solo friendly as you get one single vehicle, but for the love of God, buy a Pounder Custom and skip the Iron Mule, because if you buy that mule, you'll be stuck with it forever and you can't get rid of it. The next God tier entry on my list is the Darnell Bros Garment Factory, which is part of last year's Agents of Sabotage update. If you watch my previous videos on the latest Agents of Sabotage DLC, you'll know that the regular FIB missions give you around $200,000, and they can be done in under 30 minutes with a 5-minute cooldown between missions. That is a solid chunk of cash for a 30-minute mini heist, and the cooldown is also really low, which means you can spam these FIB files to easily earn $400,000 per hour. And every week, you also get a priority mission which pays over $300,000, and that's before you add in the bonus for completing optional challenges. With the bonus, you'll easily make $350,000 from the priority file, and it only takes 30 minutes of your time. So while it can get a bit repetitive after you've played through all 4 missions multiple times, the content is fairly easy and it has a really low cooldown between missions. Plus, you can do everything from your phone with the Darnell Bros app, which makes this business very convenient to operate. And of course, we can't forget the hands-on car wash, which at this point isn't as exciting as it once was, but the money laundering missions are short and sweet. They pay very well for the amount of time they take, and you also get buffs to your grass farm and counterfeit cash factory, 35% each, although if you don't use your grass farm and cash factory all that much, you might rank the hands-on car wash a little lower. The agency is also in the God tier, and it's second from the top because now we can finally skip the dang cutscenes in the Dr. Dre missions, and that alone brings the completion time for the heist down by about 12 minutes total. Plus, Imani Tech has been buffed with a bunch of new vehicles, and the agency is the only place in the game where you can install this tech, so it's definitely a must buy if you don't already have one. And finally, we've got the OG undisputed king of hourly money making, Cayo Perico, which is unlocked by purchasing the Casaca submarine, and in this heist, despite the many nerfs, it's still probably the #1 money grinding method used by everyone. I believe that Dr. Dre is better for long-term grinding if you do more than one heist a day, but if all you have time for is one heist, then Cayo is king. With this, you can make about $1 million on average in less than an hour, so with just 2 heists, you recover the cost of your submarine, plus the Casaca also unlocks the Sparrow helicopter, which for $1.8 million is an absolute bargain and easily one of the best grinding tools in the game alongside the Oppressor Mark II. Because of this, I'm confidently putting the Casaca at the top of the God tier and declaring it the best business in the game. And there you have it. That is my new and updated business ranking list for all 25 businesses in the game, 26 if you consider the mansion to be a business, and this should set you straight for all of 2026. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Which businesses are your favorite, and would you rank any of them differently? Thank you guys so much for watching. Drop a like if you guys enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and you want to see more GTA Online videos just like this. Check me out over on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, specifically twitch.tv/HazardoushDTV for more GTA Online live streams. And as always, have a fantastic day. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios, amigos.